Hello everyone, welcome to the Tech Podcast series. This is Lakshit from Azure Developer Community, and we are back here again with another episode of the Tech Podcast series. And in this initiative, we are inviting all the industry leaders to learn from their experiences, their thoughts about the latest generative tech that is going in and around. And for today's podcast, we have our industry leader, Dr. Arvind Sahay. He's the director of MDI Gurgaon, and he has a phenomenal experience around the educational background and the management background. So we'll try to learn from his experience how has been his thoughts around the industry. In order to kickstart this podcast series, I'll just start with a quick intro. So, sir, if you could introduce yourself first for our audience.
Uh, Good morning. My name is Arvind Sahay. I am the director of MDI Gurgaon. Joined here from Ahmedabad. I teach primarily marketing, pricing, branding, neuroscience, and consumer behavior courses. Today, I'm here to talk about a few items on the future of management and about excellence centers and what is being done at MDI Gurgaon. Um, So the first thing that I would like to share with you is the perspective on the future of management. There are many takes on this. What I'm sharing is probably one take, but perhaps one has thought about it a little bit, and hopefully it is somewhat refined. So the future of management can be looked at from two perspectives. One is the underlying drivers, and the other is the manifestation in terms of programs and curriculum. So the underlying drivers are primarily two. You can make you could make it three also, but the third one is a given, so I'm not talking too much about that, which is sustainability. So I'll primarily talk about the other two, which is technology and human behavior. So technology like AI, ML, or blockchain, or IoT, or big data analytics, or generative AI, and so on. So these will become increasingly important in all dimensions of management, whether you're looking at marketing or strategy or organizational behavior or uh, finance. Yes, even finance. So, for example, blockchain and finance very closely connected. And the other part is human behavior, and human behavior is all over here. So, how neuroscience and psychology can help us in better understanding human behaviors to create better leaders, better managers of enterprises. So, those are the two underlying drivers, and schools that focus more on being able to connect better with these two underlying drivers will probably do better. The second dimension is, so what does it manifest in terms of the programs that management schools offer? So if one were to consider the United States as kind of where some things happen first, one of the things that's already happened over here is that the generalist MBA program has started to decline. Uh, Even 5, 7, 10 years ago, schools that were there between ranks 20 and 50, those MBA programs were decreasing in numbers. This Western Reserve went from 240 to 60. A couple of schools, Purdue University, for example, shut down their MBA program. And now, as of 2023, even schools like Harvard and Stanford are facing issues in generating a sufficient number of applications for the general MBA program.
Okay.
So I expect that the trend will take another 10, 15 years, maybe 10 years at a minimum we should have. That's my expectation. But, predicting the future is always risky. But that's something that we should be watching out for. And therefore, one of the things that schools need to be thinking about is to be offering more specialist master's program which are related to management, whether it is in finance or supply chain or strategy consulting or big data analytics and so on. So that's one. Those are the two underlying dimensions, and to be able to do this better and to prepare our students better, therefore, we need to be able to help them to have some perspective on what they should be doing, and that perspective comes from what we call as multiple T's. So they need to develop depth in one or two areas of their interest, and they also
Okay.
need to have some breadth so
Very
that
interesting.
allows them to connect across different areas.
Right.
The depth part one sees a lot in students that are today, but the breadth part is a bit of a challenge. And some top managers, especially, have started feeling that a lot of the students coming through lack any pretense of even having breadth across this. And the breadth will come from a combination of research and teaching exposure that students have. Um, And so the teachers that are engaging with the students in the classroom need to bring both those perspectives, depth and breadth. uh, and for that, the teachers themselves need to be doing research, need to be teaching stuff that combines both. So for example, one could be learning about a generative AI and its applications in marketing, or blockchain and its applications in finance. So those can be topics of great depth, but ultimately they need to be applied at the management level across different topic
Industry.
areas, across different subject areas, across different functions in organizations. And to that extent, the teaching and the excellence centers, the research centers that you have, should help to be able to carry that forward. And one of the research centers that we already have three. So one is
Okay.
SIP, which has to do with uh, organizations and development of organizations. One is about Indian thought, and another is about digital and cryptocurrency. And we are in the process of establishing one, which is a Center for Behavioral Science, which will examine neuroscience and use neuroscience and psychology to figure out how people take decisions, why they take decisions. And hopefully, some of that, all of these research centers provide content which feeds into the classroom. And we hope to have an AI/ML focused kind of a center, which could be an evolution of the present center that's already there on digital and cryptocurrency. And these are some of the things which may help us to be different from other management institutions in India, as we focus on the twin pillars of technology and human behavior. On sustainability, a lot of our faculty are trained in sustainability, and they had visited a partner institution in Europe to be able to get the lowdown on what are some things that we should be doing. There are some of our faculty members that are also doing work in that area of sustainability. So if you put all of that together, I think hopefully we will have a case for saying that MDI in Gurgaon is different from most other institutions in India. One clear point of differentiation, of course, is the location that MDI has. It's sitting in the middle of a corporate hub, bar
Right.
none. None of the other institutions that I know of in India will have a location which is as conducive to being able to engage with industry
Right.
as the location here in Gurgaon. And so we have used that to help students engage with industry. There are different student clubs which are mentored by faculty. Our student the faculty leading the student engagement is Professor Vidugor. Then you have Professor Ruchi Agarwal. You have other professors who are working to help students engage in different activities with the company. So, for example, entrepreneurship. There's a smile club where students come up with ideas and they actually make pitches to venture capitalists. Some alumni are part of that group, and the initial seed funding comes from the alumni, venture capitalists, and angel funds. And some of our students get that experience going forward. And in doing so, they kind of, the better trained they are in technology, the better trained they are in human behavior, the better trained that they are in sustainability, the better the ideas and the implementation that will happen. And so we do provide a fair amount of opportunities to our students in these particular areas. In terms of challenges going forward for the students, for faculty, for institutions, I think the key challenges, especially for the top 20 institutions, is what is the path that they're going to take going forward. Uh, should they continue to be generalist MBAs? Should they focus on trying to establish niche areas where they will be really, really strong? Um, Masters in finance could be one program which is built around technology, also, or international finance, or a master's in supply chain management, or a master's in strategy consulting. So these are different potential areas that many schools could consider. Uh, Legacy institutions, of course, have a challenge of making these changes, and that's not easy. So hopefully, MDI Gurgaon, despite being a legacy institution with all sorts of different problems which are there, is able to do better than others. No institution is perfect, no human being is perfect, but so long as both institutions and human beings try to keep aligned with the goals of the institution, and they work for the institution, then people should also work in that direction. And if that happens, then any institution can move forward, including MDI Gurgaon. And with that, let me pause there. I think I have done my 12 minutes approximately.
Well,
So I will look forward to your questions.
now, I just wanted to know your perspective about the significance of the excellence center. How do you see them? And when a young professional comes to these excellence centers, what do
Hmm.
you expect from those excellence? That professional or that young aspiring leader to perform. And when he goes back in the industry beyond, right, after this, after practicing at the excellence center, what kind of skills does he get? What do you think? How does the excellence center caters in individuals?
So, in an ideal world, a center for research, a center for excellence should give some very particular set of skills, right? So, if I were to talk about a center for AI ML, for example, artificial intelligence, machine learning, and generative AI. So, the student should pick up the skill of being able to evaluate and use generative AI in different application areas, customer
Okay.
relationship, customer relationship management, or payment systems, evaluating payment systems. So the student should have both the skill of being able to develop such AI ML based systems which are configured to a particular organization, and the student should also have the capability of evaluating a system for seeing whether this actually is going to make sense and work for the institution or the organization that they are working for. Because if you're just looking at chat gpt, the kind of responses that it gives are by and large first cut responses. Now you cannot
Right.
just depend on those first cut responses as the final uh, as the final thing that you are going to use for operational purposes. But it can provide you a good start. Similarly, in neuroscience and consumer behavior, a behavioral lab should provide students the key skills of being able to understand how to collect data relating to the brain, and then use that data for designing products, looking at how to present brands, creating employee engagement uh, initiatives which are more likely to work because one has checked what was the response uh, of the brains of the target group and so on. So in terms of those skills, and if you want to look at finance, for example, we do have a lab which is operational on the campus, like many of our peer institutions, a Bloomberg lab, and that gives students some specific skills in terms of being able to look at financial data, manipulate that data, and get insights out of that, and so on. So uh, different things for different people, different skill sets from different institutions. But you have to keep in mind that ultimately, if one is looking at a management degree of some kind, then the management degree is not just about skills, it's also about perspective. It is
Okay.
also about being able to connect the dots. Uh, because in human behavior, uh, which is what organizations are about, which is what management is about, one needs to be able to connect the dots and then come to some conclusions and then take some actions or speak accordingly to people, right? To let them know that you understand and you accept. Uh, so those are some of the other skills, the so-called softer skills that need to be there, and that requires more than just technical skills.
Right. S- Also, sir, if you have to sum up, the 2 years of management journey for any individual, how do you see, if you have to describe the, two years of management journey in, just one line, how you will describe it? What makes a leader a thoughtful leader? How that 2 years of journey helps a leader to become, to come to a very fine-tuned decisions, or maybe, I expect I know, and not every decision can be really great or maybe can be inclined right. Not every decision could be right, but what helps that individual to be a thoughtful leader?
I think your intentions should be right for the institution, whether you are a student, whether you are an employee, whether you are a leader, whether you are a contractor. Your intentions should be right.
Okay.
Um, And the second thing is that uh, we live in a world where talk is cheap,
Okay.
and people tend to say and do things without sufficient thought.
Right.
And institutions will only do well, will only develop good reputations if uh, if people are thoughtful about what they do, what they say, if people are kind, if people care about one another. Um, in India, especially, sometimes there is this feeling, and some I have actually had this said to my face by some of my friends in Britain and America. They say that India is a great country, but sometimes in institutions there is a mentality, a crab-like mentality.
Okay.
You want to pull down other people rather than see how everyone can rise together. Uh, so, in that sense, kindness, concern for others, and concern mostly for the institution, is this right for the institution? I think those are things that people should take away: students, faculty, staff, leaders, deans, directors, contractors, anybody. If that happens, the institution, if a larger proportion of people behave in that way, actually a very large proportion, then the institution will do well. Otherwise, it will not do that well.
Yeah, and now, you know, watching the current situation of the market, that from maybe past post COVID, right? The situation has been very not in favor from an industry perspective. Like we have been seeing the complete continuous layoffs these industries have been doing. So how do you see what kind of impacts and what has been changed in all these years that is leading to these layoffs, and how do you see what will be the future? What are your future perception about these layoffs? Is that skill based, or it's more of a luck thing? What do you think?
So this year is tough for everyone. I think from a placement perspective, even the IITs and some of the
Right.
IIMs faced some challenges. Um, my read is that some of those challenges are happening because post-COVID firms, as the economy recovered, some firms hired more than they should have,
Okay.
and therefore now they are trying to compensate for that by hiring a little less. Um, the good news, I think, is that in India, because we have a consumption-led growth story by and large. Of course, now investment is also kicking in, and some exports are also coming in. For the next 15 to 20 years, around 6.5 to 7.5% growth is almost a given. And therefore, opportunities will be there. Uh,
Okay.
Jobs will be there, maybe not the kind that students may be expecting in the beginning. And there will be new jobs which will get created. So Gen AI will take away some jobs, but it will create even more jobs of a different kind.
Right.
So one needs to figure that out and get a sense of what to do going forward.
Yeah, means when Gen AI kicks in, there are multiple thoughts that comes along with Gen AI, like the security part, data part, responsible AI part, right? So maybe on that forefront, we will see a lots of new opportunities coming in the market. And again, I also see, I really want to know your thoughts upon this, because in past couple of years, I have seen a significant amount of money that has been there, that's sitting in with all these government, government or maybe semi-government entities like Mighty, these AICs that has been opened in multiple college centers, right? So they are encouraging the students to go from an entrepreneur mindset and try to build some make in India perspective, like build on your own startup instead of going into a job, right? So that the work that has been done there, it significantly large in some couple of years, right? So I see jobs are getting diminished, but at the same point of time, the startups thing, where the government is also helping a lot, these AIC centers and multiple initiatives that has been driven there, the grants that all these colleges are providing are significantly a decent amount, and one could always think upon this. I just want to check with your read.
Not sure I have a good response to that. I believe the culture of entrepreneurship definitely is much more widespread today
Okay.
because of the efforts of the government. Absolutely, no question about that. And now there is an entrepreneurial ecosystem, not just in Bangalore, but also at least 4 or 5 other cities which are creating a reasonably robust entrepreneurship ecosystem. Gurgaon is one of them, and that should help absolutely. And I also believe that the newer generation is more open to taking these kind of roles. Uh,
Right.
many of the many of the people who come out of management programs are now relatively more open to taking these kind of roles in entrepreneurial ventures than would have been the case 10 years
Right.
ago, or definitely than was the case 20 or 30 years ago. Okay, so I have to run, but I
Sure.
appreciate the opportunity. Thank you, Pragati, for my colleague who is sitting over here for doing this. And thank you to my other colleague, Srinivas, who's also sitting here today with me.
Yes, sir. And thank you for joining for this podcast. It was lovely talking to you and looking forward to collaborate more in future, sir. Thank you. Have
Thank
a nice
you
day.
very much. What was your name again?
Lakshit.
Lakshit Pant.
Yes, sir.
Where are you from? Haridwar.
Uttarakhand. Yeah, Pithoragarh.
Uttarakhand.
Yes, sir.
Nice to meet you, Lakshit.
Likewise, sir. My pleasure. Thank you.